Hello guys, there is a message that I want to share with you guys, and it comes from a message that I received. Then we had to do a translation. Strange things do happen in this world. The message reads like this. Hello my brother Nanshi, how are you? I am a 42-year-old man who is currently working in South Africa as a truck driver. But my brother, whenever I get inside the truck that I use at my workplace, I always thank God. To even think that I was once a madman. When I came here to South Africa, this was after my boss had told me some things that were so terrifying. Then I decided to run away from my boss. When I came here to South Africa, I was only 28 years old. Then for 4 years, my brother, if anyone asked me what happened to me during those 4 years after I had came here to South Africa, I do not even know. I do not even have any memory of what were happening to me during those 4 years. But what I only know is that this thing, it happened after my boss one day had told me that he had decided to reveal some of his secrets to me, since I was his personal driver. So I used to take him to some places that seemed to be so suspicious. So he said that I don't want you to think that I am a killer or I am a murderer. I want you to know that this is the secret that is keeping me afloat. With the way that our economy is going down the drain, where do you think that I am getting all of this money? That was when he revealed all of his ritualistic secrets to me. I was still so young at that time, my brother. I was shaking as that man was showing me some of the items that he used for his rituals and how he had personally killed some of his children when he was taken to this other witch doctor, whom he said the witch doctor used a hand mirror, and he was given a hand mirror so that he can murder his own children. This thing was just too much for my young brain. I then decided to run away from Zim, and as I was on the bus coming to South Africa with everything that I had had, I promised myself that I would never return back to Zim. When I was here in South Africa, my mom, she then contacted me and she was crying because that man had then called my mom as he was busy looking for me, and after he had found out that I had ran away without ever telling him that I don't want to work for him anymore, he decided to call my mom. Then my mom told that man that I was now in South Africa. That man, my brother, did something that I never thought would even happen, because he just called me once. When he called me once, I started to hear several voices as if 1,000 people were speaking all at once in my head. I felt so confused. Everything that he was telling me, I would just say yes, even though I didn't even understand what this man was telling me. I then called my mom and I told my mom that this man was going to come and collect some of my few belongings, because after I had ran away from his house that is there in an area that is called Glendale, when he called me, I think that he performed some rituals on me so that I can tell him to go and pick up some belongings that I had left at the place where my mom was staying at that time. It was like he was forcing me to give him the permission to go and collect my own clothes. Where has it ever happened, my brother, that you decide to stop working for a certain person, then that person will force to have your belongings? This is what this man did. He went to the place where my mother was staying at that time. When he arrived at the place where my mother was staying, he then lied to my mother and told my mother that I had given him the instruction to take my few belongings because I was on my way returning back to work. I then spoke with my mom under the influence of whatever charms that he was using on me. I then told my mom that I was on the way traveling back to Zim so that I can return back to that man's house and I was really sorry for everything that I had done, because to my family, this man portrayed himself as someone who was trying to assist me. He always told me that he wanted to make me his barista, whatever that thing that he wanted to make out of me. He said that whenever he would go out playing golf, he always wanted me by his side and he was going to help me out in life. But after he had told me most of his scary secrets, I decided to escape. So when that man went and collected my belongings from my mother, my brother, I started to have this severe headache. I could not even focus. At that time, I had recently found a job working for this other construction company. My brother, as we were busy working, these houses that were being built, they were apartments. So as we were busy working on the top floor, I thought that I saw the whole world turning upside down. From there on, I started to feel so dizzy. Then I was told that I had to return back home, but I could not even walk, such that the boss that I was working for, he then stopped whatever work that he was doing. Then he took me back to the location that I was staying. From there on, even up until today, I do not even remember what happened to me. And what pains me the most, my brother, is that when this thing happened to me, I was staying in Gauteng at that time. But after 4 years, when I woke up from this nightmare, I found myself in an area that I could not even recognize. When I started asking around, some people then told me that I was in Mpumalanga. So I don't know if for 4 years I had been walking between Gauteng going to Mpumalanga back and forth. I do not even have any memory. I am like a person who fainted, but not for minutes, but who fainted for 4 good years. This thing, it always gives me a lot of pain in my heart. All that I want to know is what happened to me during those 4 years when I was running mad here in South Africa. So when I listened to the story of that man who was saying that he once had a friend and that man was from Zim and they did some rituals, then after doing those rituals, that man from Zim started to run mad. I then thought of my own story. But finally, God delivered me. I do not even know how God delivered me. But one day, I just found myself, I was walking in the streets, almost in the middle of town, with a big plastic bag that was full of garbage. And I was smelly and I was really dirty. And when I started trying to ask people where exactly I was, people thought that maybe I was still mentally ill, until some people then told me that I was in Mpumalanga. My brother, from there on, that is when I started looking for a place so that I can wash myself. You know where I washed myself, my brother? I went to this other certain public toilet that was in the middle of a park. After I had bathed myself, I sat there in the park because I was really embarrassed with the way that I was. At night, I then started walking around picking whatever I could find. Luckily, my brother, I then found this oversized 3/4 short. I then found a job at this other Indian shop. But when I got a job at that Indian shop, my brother, you know what that Indian man used to give me as a salary? He used to give me bread as my salary. But at least I want to thank God that he offered me an opportunity. Maybe at that time I was still mentally ill, but little by little, my brother, I was able to communicate with people again. Then I found another job. When I found another job, I then went on Facebook and I started communicating with my relatives. They thought that all of these years when I went missing without getting in contact with any of my relatives, maybe something bad had happened to me. But indeed, something really bad had happened to me. Even now, when I try to tell people that this is what happened to me, after 4 years, I woke up and I found myself smelling walking barefooted in the middle of town, holding a black plastic bag that was full of garbage. Most of the people that see me today as a truck driver, it seems so impossible to them that I went through this. So this is the story that man whom I was working for when I ran away coming here to South Africa. The story that he told me was that man then told me that he went to this other traditional healer. When he went to that traditional healer, after the ritual ceremony had been done for him, then a chicken was placed in front of him and he was given some maize grains so that he can hold the maize grains in his right arm, in his right hand, and he was told that he had to throw those maize grains that he was holding in his right arm. He had to throw those maize grains so that the chicken can pick up as much as it could, those maize grains that he had thrown to the ground. Then my boss told me that unfortunately, then that chicken picked up only 2 maize grains. Then it ate those 2 maize grains and then it refused to eat all of those maize grains that he had thrown to the ground. That witch doctor then told my former boss that he was only going to enjoy these riches for only 2 years. Then after 2 years, he had to prepare for he was going to die. Then my former boss negotiated with that traditional healer and he said, how about I sacrifice my own blood so that I can live not for 2 years, but I can live until I am in old age. That is how he ended up sacrificing all of his children, all but one. There was this other one child of his who seemed to be mentally ill. You could not even understand what that boy was all about. Then my boss told me that he was only left with that one child of his, and that child of his was also part of the sacrifice. That is how he had sacrificed his blood. When he told me this thing, my brother, I was really young and I felt so afraid because this man, I used to drive with him going to places that were really terrifying, that were scary. Sometimes he would just tell you that today we are going to such and such a village, and when you would go there, you will see that the place, my brother, it was really a scary place. There are places in Zim whereby if you go there, it will be in a mountainous place, and as you will be driving through those mountainous areas, because in some of those areas you can find very tall trees such that the sun will not even be able to penetrate through those tall trees. So we used to go to such places, and this thing, it used to terrify me a lot. And when he saw that I was really terrified by all of those places that he would ask me to drive him to, he then decided to tell me his most darkest secret, thinking that I was strong enough. But my brother, how can I be strong enough when someone tells you that he murdered his own children just for the sake of ritual money? Oh, dear listeners, right there was a message that I received. Then we had to translate this message. Strange things do happen in this world.